Welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Music podcast. I'm your host, T. Davis, and today we are welcoming our very first guest, the inaugural guest, the one and only Max Marrotta, aka Maxxwellhouse. Welcome to the podcast, brother.
Thanks
How are
for
you?
having me. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. Just got off the road, doing a little Ubering this morning, and
Love it.
had a burrito.
Oh, nice. A breakfast burrito?
No, like a lunch burrito.
Nice. What did that contain?
So I had some like 93% lean ground turkey,
Okay.
and then I got some like carne asada seasoning from
Ooh.
Costco, and just smothered it in that,
Yep.
and some cheddar. And dude, there's this brand called Pure Vita.
Okay, I've heard of them.
Yeah, they have fajitas that are like flame grilled and then frozen.
Oh.
And it's pretty banging. It's got like poblano peppers and bell peppers and onions and stuff.
Is it the meat too, or just the veggies?
No, it's just the veggies, bro.
Oh, nice.
So just threw all that into a pan, and then
Yeah.
threw it in a wrap.
Did you have any sauce on it?
I
mean,
had
you had to have sauce on it.
Cholula, bro.
Oh, Cholula's
I
awesome.
just
the OG Cholula?
OG Cholula, and then
Yep.
I always, so instead of sour cream, I'll throw like non-fat plain Greek yogurt.
Yeah.
And it really does taste like sour cream.
Yeah, it's pretty similar.
I know, as far as like a health food replacement for something,
Oh, for sure.
especially
Great.
when you're mixing it with other stuff,
Yeah.
it's pretty
Yeah,
good.
I
What
agree.
have you been up to today?
Well, I got up at 5 a.m. and I went to work at the coffee shop.
Mhm.
So I worked there from 6 to 12 at the airport, and it was pretty busy today. Nothing crazy, but probably had like 150 interactions.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of folks, bro.
Yeah. By the end of it, I'm just like, all right, this is what you want. Okay, I'll meet you down here.
I can just imagine, because like, if you're just listening to the podcast, Max presents as the friendliest person that you've ever met in your life. And
Thanks.
so I'm just imagining you start off and you're like, because I know you, bro, when you get there, whether it's to the gig or whatever,
Yeah.
you're like hyped to be there and excited.
Mhm.
And like, I'm sure that those first like 70 folks got just,
Oh yeah, they get the
So-
best. They
oh,
get
yeah.
the best. But it's not like a right off the bat thing. It's more like I gotta ease into it, because think about it. It's like the early morning,
mm-hmm.
so no one wants to talk, and I don't want to talk. I don't know how to talk, so it's almost like I'm warming up. So the warm up is like maybe like 5 to 10 conversations,
Mm-hmm.
and then once I've had my like Americano, if I'm talking to people, like then I start peaking and getting all the good tips.
Yes, 100%, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have found, so like, I don't drive for Uber late at night because
Smart.
I don't want to have drunken shenanigans going on in my
Exactly.
car. I really don't want
Deal with that.
to deal with that. So I get up early as shit too. So like, I start driving usually around 6.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I keep the vibe super chill in the car.
Yeah.
Throw on a little Steely Dan, nice and low.
Yeah.
Keep the AC on real cool.
Yeah.
So that when people are just waking up, they're like, I keep it very clean.
As you should.
And
It sounds like it would be a pleasant Uber experience.
yeah.
How do you gauge on how to talk to people? Like, are some people just like, we're not going to talk at all? Or like, how do you kind of gauge that? Do they kind of take the lead on it, or what would you say?
So the easiest way to do that, as soon as anyone gets in the car,
Mhm.
I go, "Hey, how's your day going so far?"
Nice.
And sometimes they're just like, "Oh, fine. How are you? I'm good." And like usually in their tone of how they respond to that question, you can tell if they want to talk or not, or if they
Yeah.
would be willing to talk or not.
Yeah, for sure.
Because
Smart.
sometimes people are just like, yeah, fine, and then they kind of,
Yeah.
and some people have like AirPods in, and they're just
Yeah.
like immediately here, and I'm like, all right, well,
Well, that makes it
I'll
easy
crank
for
up
you,
my
right?
music a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, bro, why don't you pull the microphone?
Oh yeah, I was just relaxing for a sec.
No, relax with it. It goes with you, buddy.
Oh, okay.
It'll relax with you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't want to like mess with the
No.
strip
Oh
anything
no,
on
it's
it,
not gonna strip anything. Go
Okay,
ahead.
cool.
You manhandle that. Manhandle that microphone.
I like the Neve plugins. Are
Thanks.
those? Oh, are those legit?
Yeah, those are BAEs.
Uh-huh.
They're so
They're like modeled after it?
yeah. So actually, when they founded that company, they had the old manufacturers of like the original parts make like new old stock. So it's the closest thing that you could get to like a 70s Neve console without having a 70s Neve console.
Okay, nice.
That's that little thing, the whole 500 series rack, is the Kenny Aronoff
Oh,
bundle.
I've heard of that dude. He's the
Yeah.
drummer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he has a studio in LA that he does remote tracking and tracking for
Yeah. For everyone.
everybody.
Yeah.
And he uses like he's got a whole ass like rack of those that have
Oh,
like the
hell yeah.
EQs and stuff built in.
I think I've seen a video with him on Mixing with the Masters. What's the dude's name? The British dude?
Oh God.
You know the guy.
Damn it. Yeah, if you hadn't yeah.
But I learned
like, hope you're doing marvelously well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he's great. But I learned from him with Kenny is that always boost like the 10K on the snare.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit of 10K makes it sound like so much better. And to
Yeah.
this day, like it always.
It's the air
It
on
helps.
top.
Yeah, it helps a lot, man. And I guess like some snares, it's around there. You
Mhm.
know, just gotta find the sweet spot.
Speaking of snares and other music related things, I guess we should like kind of tell the people who you are and
Okay.
what you do. So how about this? I want you to summarize your career so far, just from your point of view. Like where'd you start? What do you do? I mean, Max is a very talented multi-instrumentalist. Like dude plays the hell out of the guitar, the bass, the drums, and is a killer arranger, all of the above. So
Thanks, bro.
I'm gonna toot your horn for you. But
Oh.
I want in your own words, what would you say that you do?
So I'd say I'm mainly a drummer and guitarist, and I produce as well, mainly for like my own stuff. Some with others or my girlfriend, but mainly just like original stuff. And then I also make beats. Love making beats.
Mhm.
And yeah, man, just songwriting, it kind of goes in phases of what I'm like doing, but it's usually drums and guitar
Mm-hmm.
mainly.
Yeah, and I guess because you are our inaugural guest, I'm gonna try this formula out on you. I wanna get your story, like your first memories of music, getting into music, and then all the way through like present day, what you're up to now.
Okay.
And honestly, this is really cool for me because we've hung out a lot, but it's usually been like before or after gigs,
Yeah.
or like we grabbed lunch last year when I was out here and I was considering
Yeah.
moving out here.
Yeah.
But we haven't had time to really like I mean, I know your musical taste because we play together and I've known you for 10 years now.
Yeah, right.
And I've watched all your stuff on social media over the
Yeah.
years and everything. But we never talked about like the origin story, like
Yeah.
what is the, Maxxwellhouse origin story, so to speak.
Okay. Well, I'll give you like what I've done over the years and how it's grown, and then maybe we can get into like inspiration
Mhm.
after that. But mainly it's like I started guitar when I was like 12, but I had one when I was like
Mm.
maybe 10 and tried a little bit, but yeah, I basically started playing guitar at 12, did that for a couple years, and then I started playing drums because with like friends, no one else would be able to really play drums, so I would just end up playing drums, and that's kind of how I started getting into drums. And then I started like playing in a band with my friend Victor, which we know,
Mm-hmm.
and his brother Pedro, and we just would always jam, and that's kind of what put me into drumming. And then I really embraced it after maybe like a year or two of just kind of messing around.
And so how old were you when you picked up like the drums? Because it was with Victor
Yeah.
and Pedro, right?
Yeah, I'd always kind of like messed around on a kit
Mhm.
periodically over the years, maybe like since I was 12, but I really started at like 14.
That was when you
That's when I
had
started, yeah.
like focused practice, like
Yeah,
I
I
really
started.
want to get better.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I started and then did that basically for years,
Mhm.
like maybe 5 or 6 years. Drums was like my main focus all the time. And like I would pick up the guitar here and there, but it was pretty much drumming, man, and working with the band with Victor and Pedro
Mhm.
and another guy, Bo.
Yeah, so tell me about that. So I met you at the time that you were with the band lineup was you, Victor, Pedro, and Bo.
Yeah,
But you
so
said it started with just the three of you guys, right? So
yeah.
how did it start morphing into that with Bo? Like what were you guys up to as a trio before you had Bo join you guys?
So we were like kind of formed at the end of high school,
And this is in Garner or Clayton,
Garner, Clayton, and
North Carolina,
yeah,
for those listening.
yes. And that was when Pedro joined, but Victor and I had again been jamming for a couple years.
And you knew each other from school?
Yeah, from music school.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was kind of a couple years we'd already been playing, hanging out. And then we really kind of formed the band at the end of high school. And we had did that for a couple years. And just being young and experimenting and like having fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
And we would have so much fun jamming for hours, experimenting and like I think we had reached a lull in it. Like, just kind of like a down. And we were like, man, just not, no one was vibing. We were going to school. There was a lot of like stuff happening in life that was just a lull. Nothing bad per se, but And then I had seen like a Facebook ad for some singers doing like a Mr. Big song for some random tournament thing. I don't
Wait,
know.
what?
Yeah, it was some random like competition sweepstakes thing for some 80s band. I think it was Mr. Big.
Okay, yeah.
And so I was like, LOL, what is this? And I just clicked and it was like a younger dude, long hair, and he's just singing really high and like sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh damn, like that's exactly what we were looking for, We'd always kind of like really liked higher pitched vocalists, Robert Plant, Steven Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
I'd always been like, yeah, that's a rock, that's a good rock and roll singer. So, and I just messaged him on Facebook and was like, bro, this is destiny. You're gonna be in our band.
And that was Bo.
Yeah, and that was the beginning of 2014. A couple months later, he went and came and recorded with us and hung out for a week, and then came back again that October. And then by then it was like, okay, after we graduate in 2015, community college,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna just go and tour and just do this shit for real with Bo.
I think that was around the time that I met you guys.
Yeah, that was around the time we were hanging out with Brian,
Mhm.
which is another great guitarist, blues guitarist.
Brian Swinson.
Yes, and yeah, the lineage goes deep. I think for now I'm gonna just continue the musical part.
Mhm.
So I did the drums for like 2016, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
y'all did tour a lot. Y'all were all over the Midwest.
yeah, just
Didn't y'all play Sturgis?
Yeah, we did Sturgis 2 times, and then we did another thing in like February. So we had played in Deadwood like 3 times, which was like so gorgeous, bro.
Yeah.
Like beautiful. Like yeah, really cool energy over there. And then after that it kind of like was like, okay, Victor and Pedro kind of wanted to go back to school. Bo wanted to move here.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of like, well, I don't know if I'm ready to like do that. I feel like I was like really kind of attached to Victor and Pedro. We were like the homies before.
Mm-hmm.
So we had that bond, and I was like, if they're going to kind of stay behind and go to school, maybe I'll do the same, And so we went back to Clayton. And that's when I was just trying to like get my grades up in school to like go back and get a bachelor's. And in the meantime, I was just jamming. We were hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
We had formed like another trio thing called the Days.
Yeah.
That was like, we would gig at like Berkeley Cafe in Raleigh.
Yeah,
or, like,
I did some video for you guys for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At Black Flower in Raleigh.
Mm-hmm. At
420.
Black Flower, and didn't y'all play? Y'all played at it was like a brewery in Raleigh.
Dude, Yes, and you
Yeah.
know what was so fucking funny about that show?
What?
The one that you came and filmed. You'd filmed too. You did one with
I
like a
did.
handheld at Black Flower 420 party, and then you came and set up. We were doing this whole promo thing at this like random bar gig, right? And like, bro, I went to get the check at the end of the gig, and at the same time that we ended, this huge wedding reception rolls in. Like they're drunk, they're just partying after the wedding. And I'm like going up to the bartender and I'm like, hey, dude, I need that check. And he was like, oh, I'll get you in a second. And then he's just starting to serve people drinks. 10 minutes goes by. I'm like, dude, I need the check. And this guy gets so fucking mad. He looks at me. Rah! And then he gets in my face and he's like, you want your fucking check? You want your fucking check? And he was really big and tall. But all I remember was like the little pineapples on his shirt and his pudgy fucking hairy chest. And I'm like, bro, this is funny. And yeah, and then he wrote the check, but he didn't sign it. I don't even think on purpose. Like he wasn't even like a mastermind. He was just like angry and forgot to sign it. So I still had to go back the next day and get them to sign
I
it.
think I vaguely remember that happening.
It was weird, bro.
Yeah.
And those videos are still on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the work is there. But you know, we did that for like a year or two. Victor got into App State. I was kind of living still in Clayton, and then eventually after a year I moved to Boone, App State, but I wasn't in school yet. And I had lived with Jacob and Rose, which they also live here too.
Yep.
So
Jacob is the homie. Jacob
Yep.
plays in the
Bass
band with
and
us and does also a
guitar.
great solo singer-songwriter vibe.
yeah.
And yeah.
He's actually like the dude that pushed me to start recording and releasing music, believe it or not. Because we were done with Ivy Stone with the bow thing. And I remember I was checking out their house so I could live there. Or we were partying there after like a gig or something in between homes and places and stuff. And yeah, and Jacob was like, hey, look at this music I'm making. And he had made something at JCC too with one microphone. And it was like, dude, this is sick. And I was like, well, I kind of play guitar too that I've neglected for, years now. I really haven't played it that much.
That's funny to me because I don't know how much you were playing at the time that we met, but Brian always talked so highly of you as a guitar player. And
That's crazy.
And I had heard you like a few times, and I was like, it's just funny to me now sitting here talking to you about this, that you're saying that you had kind of felt like you neglected the guitar. Because in my recollection, in my experience, you were shredding the guitar.
That's so funny.
Because I'm trying to think of when it might have been. I mean, we jammed. We would all get together and jam some. And I heard you play then, and you were doing some really cool stuff. And I was like, what the fuck was that? Like, but
I think it was like I had learned Van Halen records and I was shredding in high school. Like I'd already kind of had learning Zakk Wylde stuff. Like Victor and I would bounce influences off each other, and like she put me on to like the 70s, like the late 70s, 80s stuff. And I was kind of already into like the Hendrix Cream stuff before, but then once I got the dexterity from like Eric Johnson and like Eddie Van Halen, then it really like got that muscle memory like indented in there, so I would still pick it up over the years, but through phases. So for like maybe a couple weeks, I would just kind of always have it when I'm watching TV or whatever. So it was never like I never played it completely, but I went from like practicing, being like dedicated, to just kind of picking it up casually.
Right.
And so like there would be times I wouldn't play for maybe like a few months, but then I would play it for a couple weeks, and then a week, 2 weeks not, and then.
So what you're saying is you put in like a shitload of time up front, like on the front end when you were kind of obsessed with it as a teenager.
Yeah.
Learning more technical stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's what I wish I had done, but I did not.
It's weird, man. I think, you can still do it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to find time.
Yeah, right. But yeah, that's pretty much that. And then when
you're in Boone.
Yeah, so I just moved to Boone, and before this I just recorded my first album when I was living with Jacob and Rose. So that's on just SoundCloud. but it's under Max Marrotta with 2 X's. And that's when I started picking up the guitar again, learning songs, trying to with chords and stuff, just trying to like evolve as a guitar player, not just kind of stay playing. I wanted to start learning things, but mainly record and just write stuff and just like experiment. And I did that. And then by the time I got to Boone, I was still starting to carry on that same way of doing it. And I kind of had a moment there where I was like, I wasn't going to go to college because JCC Community College, also fuck you, JCC, shout out Smithfield, North Carolina. But I had retaken all those classes in 2017, right? For like a year and a half. Got my GPA back up, but they never replaced the grades. So when I went to apply to these colleges in 2018 spring, like they were saying you can't get in because your grades are shit. And I'm like, how was that possible? I fucking did this. I thought I was supposed to replace the grades. So I'd moved back home like after spring of Boone, moved back home for a summer. I was like super depressed and like kind of dealing with like some hand stuff that had developed. I'd started noticing a couple years prior and like, just not in a good place. And then
And so that would have been
the summer of 2018.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of did some digging on the JCC thing because my parents were like really being like, bro, are you going to go to college or are you going to be a fucking plumber? Like, what are we doing? And I was like, oof, what the fuck is this? And we just went online and my mom was like, wait, blah, blah, blah. Like your grades aren't replaced. And we called them and they ended up replacing the grades. And then I got into Boone that fall and I'd already kind of built a community in Boone because that whole spring I was meeting people like Joe, Marcus
shout out
Clance,
Joe Karmazin, Marcus Clance. Yeah.
Like I met them in Boone and those were some really like great friendships that were formed at that time. And then plus getting connected with the whole kind of college scene, I had seen like a glimpse of it and I was like, oh, this is definitely something I want to be a part of.
Yeah, I never spent any time at App State, but from what I could see on the social media videos and stuff that you guys were sharing, the music community, specifically the rock and roll / jazz fusion-y, that whole thing that was going on up there seemed really cool. Like they were like y'all were playing like house shows.
And it really wasn't that many people doing the jazz fusion thing though. There was like one group of jazzers, like Electric Jelly Funk and all of those people involved were like great players, great jazz players, but also funk and stuff like that. Just super talented, right? So they were kind of really setting the bar. And then you had some other bands that were like kind of similar, funky, but it was just so much quality. I mean, maybe it might not have been that great looking back, but still you felt it. Well, if it feels a certain way, then I'm like, I trust it, with my gut. And it felt great. And like the music was sick and everyone was killing. And then I think that really pushed everyone to like play and just want to do it every like day. And it was so crazy, bro, because you would be taking classes like most of the day. Then you'd be done and you'd either be getting up with your friends and then going to see a show like right down the street. It was really cool because it was just a small little college campus with a little town attached to the side. So it was like maybe 8 square blocks of like Brooklyn in a mountain.
Yeah,
town.
It's beautiful up there. Bree and I went out there and just walked around campus a couple years ago. We used to go to Laurel Springs and get like an Airbnb to get out of, get out of the eastern part of the state and get some mountain air.
Yeah.
And we were like, let's just like pop over to Boone. It's not that far. It's like 30 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
And I was like, now I get it. Like I had never like been, I was like, dude, all these little bars and stuff right here. And then it's just beautiful everywhere. Everywhere you look, it's gorgeous out there in the Western North Carolina
I
mountains.
could talk about it for hours. I mean, those mountains are the oldest mountains in the world. Like Pangea. Old.
Yeah.
So there's just some really special energy. The air is so clean, it's so biodiverse, it's so beautiful. And then that just influences your soul and like has an impact. Like Marcus and I and some other drummers we would bring our drum kits and just play over these giant overlooks of just mountains. So we would just be shedding and like you just look over these beautiful mountains.
Man.
And we did it one time on like a full moon and just in the dead of night, just shedding.
Dude.
So it was honestly probably some of the best years and like some really great friends. And that kind of ties in the guitar, the like me starting guitar again was because I couldn't get into App State. Like if you're doing a music degree, whether it be business, recording, performance, whatever, you have to choose an instrument to kind of go with.
Okay.
And I wanted to choose drums, but they were like, play this marimba piece instead. And I'm like, bro. So I couldn't get in for drums, but I blew his mind. I made sure I played loud and fast and hard and showed all my chops to this teacher just because I was mad at him and I didn't get into drums. But
so wait, so tell me about that. What happened?
Because I did like a drum.
You did an audition?
I did an audition in spring when I was trying to get in.
Uh-huh.
And like they said no because I didn't know how to do like marimba shit.
So they wanted you to play melodic percussion.
Yeah, like you had to have like an understanding of that to get in, which is understandable, but like I don't think that should be the benchmark for getting in if you're like just a drummer who wants to expand there. You know, I think that's something that not many people have access to either. So it's just like, bro, what are you doing? You know, it's just kind of making it like, so you're telling me I can only study drums at this college if I'm a band kid and I've played marimba, like I've had a marimba laying around,
right?
Or keys. I'm just like, bro, I don't have either of those things. So I didn't get in for drums, but long story short, I tried out for guitar. I did "You Are the Sunshine of My Life."
Nice.
And I did like a arrangement of like the melody and chords.
Nice.
And that got me
Dude,
in.
I would love to hear that because
I can't remember that for shit. But I spent a lot of time working on it.
You would have to. There's the key change in that it complicates it. It's cool, but it's
so sick.
It's great. I love that whole tone intro.
Bro, yes.
It's the GOAT, Stevie, man.
Yeah. So I did that and they let me in. And that really kind of got me playing again. And I was coming out of this place where, I can't do much with my hand, which is like a repeating theme.
Yeah. So is it just like
it's like tendonitis and like nerve damage because I didn't really know how to treat it properly when it first started flaring up. So I would like ice it and then try to stretch it. And that's just going to damage your nerves and shit. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not a doctor. I don't know if that's actually true.
Well,
but it definitely didn't feel good.
If you're saying that you were icing it and then stretching it, see the ice.
It's going to freeze all your things.
The ice makes things stiff and then you're like working against that. So it's like you'd want to do the warmth.
Exactly. So I was like, not treating it the right way.
Yeah.
So I think that damaged it. And now like I've had flare-ups and stuff. I mean, the best thing to do is just take care of your body and like weight training and like doing workouts and stretches and just kind of knowing technique as well. Like if you're gripping the pick too hard or if you're like you're getting tension right here when you're trying to play, that's blocking blood flow or like stiffening up this part. So it's just like I kind of had to rearrange things on drums and guitar.
So you get in for guitar, and that would have been
fall of 2018.
2018, okay.
So I started doing like classical music right off the bat, which those were easy because it was like a big orchestra of guitar. So we would it'd be like lines, very simple melodic lines, but studying some classical stuff. And then the main thing was like I had this jazz teacher, like a one-on-one thing. And he would just make you go through the real book and try to sight read and like I didn't really get much out of sight reading, but I did get good at chord reading. So like I could do like the 4 or 5 flavors of a chord, any chord you ask me to. I can do that now because of that. So like it got me good at just like reading chords and like, for learning songs when you just want to sing.
That like would arrangements and like learning to accompany yourself.
Yeah, I learned to accompany myself by that. So I really did gain something and like a bunch of cool chord shapes and it did helped me shred a bit more over I learned a few things over a few chords type stuff, you know? But I'll never fully be a jazz guy, and I've accepted that. But I love some jazz vocabulary, and mainly like harmonic things. I pull harmonic things from jazz, but I wouldn't say
Yeah,
like I'm doing jazz harmony, because I'm not. It's mainly like, oh, this,
using upper extensions,
yeah.
maybe doing substitutions.
I'm a big patterns guy and like
Mhm.
shapes. So I see progressions as like shapes sometimes.
Mhm.
So you can translate those shapes into the context and use that in your own context. So I kind of do that with it. But
Yeah, the jazz thing is something that when you're not a jazz player, I think it's like super easy to kind of almost like fetishize it. It's like, I
yeah.
wish so hard that I was good enough to be a jazz player. But
Or you hate it and like dismiss it because
yeah, I mean,
you're
I don't,
insecure to learn it, or
yeah,
yeah.
I try not to dismiss it. So like, I always share this anecdote. Like, I heard Don Cheadle on a podcast, and he was talking about like why he made acting his primary focus instead of continuing with music. And he said it's because you have to be a really, really good musician to be a bad jazz musician. And so he was like, I'm just gonna act.
Yeah. Honestly, that makes sense, because every time I think I'm like hot shit or something, I'm like, oh, wait, I'm not at all, because there's jazz players. But also, there's just so many amazing players these days in general. I don't think it's ever okay to think you're like amazing or like anything quote unquote special. Artistry is one thing, like your own, who you are, your truth, that's always going to be unique and special and like should be celebrated. But like, as far as playing, like as like a sport or like like if we're just looking at it technically, like, bro, there's no way.
Yeah,
Like,
it's the other thing. The other side of that is, I'm trying to think about. I can't remember who it was, but it was some. It might have been on a podcast or an interview. But someone was talking about Coltrane. They were talking about giant steps, and he was like, "Here's the thing about giant steps. Like, is it amazing that he could come up with that? Yes. Is it like musical?" He was like, basically his point was giant steps is math. And if like, I think he said, if you were to poll the average listener of music and you mention Coltrane, they're going to talk about his solos featured on, other people's records. The average casual isn't going to be obsessing over the changes in the harmonic information in giant steps.
It's because it's like, as human beings, not all of us are studying and talking about astrophysics.
Right.
That's what it is. Like, it's so deep in the sauce and the mathematics, and honestly, at that point, the universe, like, it is so geometrical and aligned with like so many universal truths and science and math. Like, it's literally embodies that. So I can definitely see, like, yeah, that feeling to people translate as this is very dense information that feels mathematical and a little bit like almost pretentious, because it's like, I can't understand any of this. But like at the same time, like, I think people who can appreciate music in general and take the time to listen and open their mind to it, you're like, oh, dude, this is something incredible.
Well, when you are into arranging and writing and harmony at all, and you hear that, it's overwhelming and inspiring. But to a casual, just like enjoyer of music,
they won't get it.
It's like you maybe get them for 15 seconds.
Yeah, they'll be like, wow, that sounds really weird or interesting. But, the real ones know.
Yeah.
The real ones know.
So you get in and you're learning all these like new like jazz
jazz
chord
standards.
shapes, standards, learning how to read chord charts really well.
And also playing in big band on drums. So I'm playing in a band I'm playing in bands with my friends and jamming on both instruments now. I had gotten into a band with my friends Brady and Alora, and they kind of put me in this band called Foxymoron.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so that was an amazing experience because
Alora Dash, right?
yep,
Mm-hmm.
and Brady Storm Kennedy. I can't remember which one it is, but no, they're both incredible musicians, artists, friends. They were really great and good to me and understanding and patient with me, when I'm me. So, yeah, they were great. That was an amazing experience. And Aaron Collins on bass and vocals,
Mm-hmm.
amazing singer, and like he was funky as hell, honestly. But we had some great memories, and like that lasted like I'd say maybe a year or so. Like it was like the peak of it because we would do these house shows, man, and just person to person, and there's nothing quite like that. That's why Boone was so great too because of the house show scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, it would be like some random house in the basement, and then there's just amazing bands playing. Like, and just so many young people who are into music and just the vibe.
Yeah.
So it was a really cool experience, man. And yeah, so I got to experience that as a guitar player and a drummer.
Mm-hmm.
So I had this new rebirth on guitar, and I was like, oh hell yeah. And I also played my first solo show in Boone as an
Nice.
artist. So I had made this album like over the course of like maybe a year. Like I had released 2 albums at that point. So I've released an album every year since 2017. That was like my goal. Like I'm gonna release an album every year. So I did 2017, did one in 2018, and then I was kind of writing one throughout 2019, and I went through this like bad breakup. And like it was just me alone in my apartment in Boone, and there's no air conditioning or anything. And like I think my like water had gone out for like a week. So I was like riddled with like anxiety and just feeling all the things, and like I had my instruments and like no water. so
Dude.
so bro, I just grinded and recorded like 5 tracks, and the rest of the album is like from around those times, but I remember I locked in and like just put all the heart and soul into it, and then I ended up performing that, and there's a live recording of it on Spotify. It sounds horrendous, like vocally it sounds I don't even know, it just sounds horrendous because like it was really packed, great time, and the nerves are going and you can't really hear anything, guitars are blasting,
Mm-hmm.
and like I'm not the best singer, I wouldn't even say I'm a good singer, but I love to like sing and write songs, and I went through a big phase of it, kind of coming out of that dark place, and that
Mm-hmm.
kind of healed me in a way. So I just started learning a ton of songs, man, on my nylon. Like every day I was singing for hours and just learning songs. Whatever song I wanted, I was like, that would get stuck in my head, I would just learn it.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that really consistently throughout like my last 2 semesters of college while I was doing the Foxy Moron thing and drumming classes, all that shit, bro. And then at the same time, I had formed Fresh Squeeze with Victor and our friend Leo.
Yeah.
So also Leo was another great friend that I met in Boone, and he bonded with us I think the most because him and Victor got really close because they look alike and they were
Yeah.
just like funny as hell. So like we really formed like a strong, and he's Brazilian, so like there was a strong bond with Victor,
with
Pedro, and
yeah.
you know
Mhm.
what I mean? And we were all, it was a really good fun vibe. And yeah, so we met Leo too. So we're all going to college, we're all doing these things together, all these friends. It's like an amazing time. I'm like learning a lot, right? And then COVID happens, and it's like holy shit. Like we had just formed a band, Victor, Leo, and I, called Fresh Squeeze,
Mm-hmm.
and Leo was playing bass. Even though he was a guitar player this whole time, he started playing bass, and we were just writing super progressive sounding stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like let's just write some crazy shit, right? And like it was awesome, and everyone we wrote the whole Fresh Squeeze first album in like a week. We had to like take care of like Victor's ex-girlfriend's dog, so we would like, and we would roll like a big fat joint once a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we would wake up, have some coffee, smoke, write, go take care of the dog out, come back, same thing. So we just repeated this cycle for like a week, and we had an awesome like 7 or 8 songs, and then we performed it, and we were starting to get some like momentum with it because it was like really cool, and we were all 3 of us singing because Leo was already a singer.
Mm-hmm.
Victor was already singing stuff in our trios
Mm-hmm.
most of the time. And I had just gone through this big singing phase. So we were like locking in. And although like it might have not been like amazing vocals, we were definitely writing some crazy parts over the music, and it was like a trio
Yeah, like the
singing together.
harmonies. Mm-hmm.
It was a really cool band, man. And we did that, and then COVID happened. And so this is where it gets even crazier. Um, so I had recorded another album in that January before the Fresh Squeeze stuff happened. I had recorded like another album. So it was called Am I Cool Yet? And it's like really silly and cringe, but some of those songs are really sick on that one. I just did that one in my apartment as well. So I have two albums that I did completely in my apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And, then COVID happens and Leo moves out and I'm staying
To Nashville.
Yeah, and I'm staying in this apartment. And I just stayed there for like another month and a half just by myself when the world was shutting down.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wrote a whole other album. And it was awesome, man. So I did 3 albums, that's right. And I don't know if this could like incriminate me. I'm going to keep it like kind of dull, or like it's nothing that serious, but basically like our apartment lease, like he had brought the papers for us to sign in that fall, and we had signed them, but he never came and got them. So the guy, like not the landlord, but the maintenance guy, he was like fresh out of prison and started dating. It was like married to like the chief of police's daughter. Some weird random shit. And then that guy just disappears. And then COVID happens. And Leo's like, dude, I'm just leaving. Like, we don't know what's going on right now. Like, they don't even have our leases, bro. Like, what is this? So we were basically doing month to month.
Uh-huh.
And like I basically like didn't pay my rent for a month. Maybe a month and a half. And like, but it was so funny because they came knocking at our door, like the actual landlord. And he was like, yeah, dude, you're gonna have to pay this much, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, we had already figured out like how much I had paid. There was like a whole like bunch of math to it. And it had been
love that.
It had been paid.
There was a whole bunch of math to it.
He was basically trying to make me sign a contract that was confirming all of the rent I had already paid. But during that summer, we had agreement that I was paying half of my rent. So that was all square.
Mm-hmm.
Fall happens, tries to get us to re-sign the lease. We sign it, guy never comes. It's lost in our fucking living room couch at that point. It was college. And then the world shuts down. And then like a month later, I get this knock on my door. It's the landlord. And he's like trying to make me sign. I'm like, I'm just going to let my lawyer look at it. And then like, and then I just moved out and the world shut down. And, I was respectful. I cleaned the apartment really good. It's like, bro, if you're watching, I didn't pay 1 month rent. I'm sorry. Like,
there was a pandemic.
I'm a college guy. Yeah. And there was a pandemic. Like, dude, what do you want? But I was nice. I cleaned up it was all good.
I got a text from Marcus, which never happens. I think he just sent me he sent me a podcast idea. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't for a gig.
What was this? Oh, it's about the jamming and then interviewing thing. The
Yeah,
Nate Smith thing.
I think he sent me the Nate Smith thing.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So yeah, so you dip out and you end up you moved here.
No, I moved in with Leo and his parents in Charlotte in this like nice suburban neighborhood. It was so weird. It made me feel like I was like out of high school, like just fresh out of high school, going back to like a suburban home for the summer, basically. And I had friends who was a background singer in the band I was in. She had lived in like the same neighborhood as Leo.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a twin sister. So we ended up just becoming like homies that whole summer. It was like an amazing summer. Like we didn't go anywhere because it was COVID. So we just had like this little group in Leo's neighborhood. We were all like graduated from college and just like vibing, hanging out. And then Victor would come and stay because he lived in Raleigh. So it was like Raleigh to Charlotte isn't that big. So we would write and stuff. And it was just an awesome time, man. And, after college, I kind of didn't play as much guitar again. I kind of went out of that playing drums more. Obviously, we're fresh squeezed. So I'm like, let me focus on this.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up recording an album in Leo's basement. So I have 3 albums recorded in like a 6-month period. There were 3 albums recorded.
Wow.
2 of my own, and then the Fresh Squeeze one, which is all on Spotify and everything.
Yeah, and there will be links to all of this in the
Yeah.
show notes and stuff.
Yeah, it was Am I Cool Yet and Stay Groovy, and then the Fresh Squeeze album. But that album didn't come out until February of next year. But we had recorded basically all of it except maybe some of the vocal overdubs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just took a while to mix and stuff.
So when did you end up moving out here, actually?
So August
of 2020.
2020. So we're living there, COVID summer, right? June, July, and like Leo's parents are like, dude, you guys need to get the hell out of here. Right?
Yeah.
And he was
as
like,
parents
he was
would
like,
be.
you have a month and a half to get out of here. And I was like, sick. Like, cool. They were so gracious with us already, right? So we came out here in August. We secured a house, little tiny house. Living room was like half entertainment, half studio. Literally probably the size of this room.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bigger was the living room. And we had a kitchen, and dude, man, as soon as we moved here, it was just craziness. Like, craziness with what kind of work am I doing? Like, dude, I was working anything I could. I worked a couple retail jobs randomly.
Mm-hmm.
And, did that for like maybe like a few months.
So you told me that the first few months out here are like kind of the biggest bummer.
They're kind of a bummer.
So talk to me through that time. What was like that first 3 to 6 months like here in town?
So I'm lucky because I had 2 really good friends. So we had this like camaraderie, this electricity, and it was like, bro, nothing is going to stop us from being successful in this environment, right? So I had that to kind of like feed off of and kind of hold us up. But man, it was rough financially. Like, we had gotten the stimulus check from Biden. So that kind of cushioned me for a couple months, like when I moved here.
Mm-hmm.
But man, like, I was working at fucking J. Crew at the mall. Like, dude, that is the most not
that is the
job.
The farthest
thing, bro.
From Max Marrotta.
Furthest. I didn't
fucking J. Crew.
What the fuck
bro?
is life, So I was whatever.
I would love to see you,
dude. I'm this
trying to
bro.
Some like Brooks Brothers wearing dude comes in.
It's kind of sad, and I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little bit salty that COVID happened right as I was graduating that semester, because App State had some amazing internship opportunities. Like, a lot of my peers who had graduated a semester earlier, semester after me, like, one girl's doing SNL. Other girl went and studied at Electric Lady Studios. Victor got to tour like the world with X and Y and Z, and like all these people had these internships at like the Castle in Franklin, like just amazing opportunities, and I didn't get shit.
Yeah.
So I moved here with a fucking bachelor's that I had told my whole life would help me be successful, and it didn't do jack shit.
Yeah.
And that program in the world kind of fucked me over for that. But at the same time, like, whatever. Like, I'm not, I'm still very lucky and privileged. So
yeah, I mean, and you act like you've been technically a good musician and able to just like sit in with pretty much anybody since I've known you. So it's like, you moved out here with the chops to be successful. It was just a matter of finding your feet, doing the networking, and hitting the pavement.
Exactly. Like, you're right, man. And I'm so fortunate that I put the time in, and that helped a lot. And like, also, just like you said, networking. Like,
so what were you doing when you got to town to get what got you out of J. Crew?
Dude, luck, and also having friends. Like, I had a friend, Bo was already here, right?
Right.
So when I came and did a tour in the spring of right before COVID hit with Foxy Moron, Bo came and saw me at one of the gigs. Leo and Victor were there too, coming here, right? So came to a gig, and Trey Gust, who's a bass player in town, he was Bo's best friend growing up, and we've known each other for years, right? From those days.
Mm-hmm.
And Trey had a friend here named Riley Bria who is fucking so funny, amazing singer and songwriter guitarist. So we kind of got Riley coming over our house when we first moved here to like jam and hang out. We would smoke, jam, play Super Smash Bros. Like it was a beautiful broship, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how we got in, because we're hanging out with Riley, and then by crazy happenstance, the people who had lived at our house right before us were like phenomenal musicians, like extremely talented, well-connected musicians. And he had come to get his like fucking mail or something. And he came to our house and he was like, "Oh, I heard you guys playing. Like, you sound pretty good." And he comes up in our house and he's like, "Oh, these are some sick guitars. Oh man, this needs a setup." He's like talking shit. He looks at the weed and he's like, "Oh, this is shit, man." And he's like, "Hey guys, if you need any weed or you want to come hang out, just here's my number." And like, dude, also the weed thing was really hard moving to Nashville because I had a really good plug in the mountains. Then coming here, bro, it was like, it still is kind of not as good as it used to be, especially out here. But that's just a side note. Anyways, we started getting a good weed connect. And this guy he plugged us into such a pool of people because him and this guy named Seth Cook, who's also an amazing multi-instrumentalist songwriter, and this bassist named Brogan Dutcher, I think. But Brogan is like fucking crazy. He's a savant and just one of the most like slimiest bass players. I had a jam with him one time, and he just played Butterfly by Herbie Hancock, but the melody and the bass part at the same time. So I was like, okay, so this is where we're at.
Yeah.
And so, just it was luck, but also being a good hang and just being friendly and like keeping an open mind, and just like the vibe was just there. The energy was right. We were eager, funny, fun, ready to do shit,
So what kind of stuff started to come of those hangs?
So from Riley, we had secured our first spot on Broadway. And
which was
Paradise Park, which is now called Friends in Low Places. But that was just like a great little spot, and we started playing like Wednesday nights, like 10 to 2. And at the same time, Victor and I were randomly walking through the neighborhood, and our neighbor was out, and he looked like he was like a construction worker or whatever, and he had talked to us before saying he had owned a construction company. And I'm so desperate for work. We all quit our jobs at Christmas, so none of us have work. And it's like January like 2nd or 3rd. And we're like, "Hey man, if you need any help, like we are jobless." And the dude called us out that next week, caulking some windows and doing some painting and sanding. And he became our like carpenter mentor.
okay.
So we secured this carpentry apprenticeship, Victor and I, and then we were starting to play on Broadway. So now we start to get some momentum. I'm locked into this new job, this trade that, it was a great vibe. We were open-minded, learning stuff, working every day outside. It just felt empowering. And like I finally had a stable job. I was making good money compared to what I had been making my whole life, right? And I'm learning this skill. And then after 6 months of that and Broadway, and then you start meeting all these people, you start partying, drinking on the town. And like, I don't even really like to drink, but I started drinking like 4 days a week because there's just, girls get involved and more friends and more fun. And it was great. Right. But it started to wear on us. But at the same time, around this time, I'm just playing a lot of drums. Right. And this is 2021. And then we ended up meeting this guy near. He had moved here from Israel in like 2020 fall, and he was this like really intense, talented producer bass player guy. And he had came to one of our shows and was like, "Oh, you guys are great, blah blah blah." And Leo, I think, had met him through something, and we started hanging out with him towards like summertime, and he was like a whole other level like of talented. Like I was like, this guy's so intense and talented, like what is this, so we started becoming friends and like hanging out all the time. He became friends with all of our friends, and we had built this bond with this dude, and we ended up throwing this like amazing house party like at the end of our lease. All the friends that we had these relationships we had built had come to this head, and we tripped acid, and the first two bands were great, and then we sounded like absolute dog shit and tripping way too hard, and then everyone clears out. But it was probably the most epic house party of all time. Like, we had put out, at least that I've experienced in my own life, because we had put out like a poster, not even thinking about it, and this like Instagram page reshared it, like in Nashville indie or something scene. And so literally 10 minutes goes by. Like, it said it started at 9, and then 5 people show up, and I don't know any of those 5 people. And from that, as soon as that happened, I was like, uh-oh, this is going to be fucking insane. Like, I could feel it, like when your hair starts to raise before a storm. I was like, oh no,
this might get away from us.
This might get away from us. And like, from that moment on, I shit you not, every 30 seconds, new faces walking in. I hadn't seen any of these people before. The first 25 people I didn't know. And then I'm like, oh shit. And so our house, there was probably 300 or 400 people that like had come and gone through this tiny little house we had moved in. And all the friends were there, and it was so fucking funny and awesome and memories. And then we had moved in with Near. We got this new house, and we're like, hey, let's get Leo on vocals, because Leo started really blossoming as a singer. Let's just do the rock band thing. Let's go all the way. Let's do it, right? So we quit our carpentry job. He had kind of had enough of us already, because I was a real dumbass. It just wasn't for me. Like, I just don't get that very well. And plus, I don't want to cut my hand open.
That's true.
And so we went full send, rocked it hard for like 6 months. And then...
So you're still doing Broadway stuff?
We're still doing Broadway. And at the end of the year, we lose the gig. The bar shuts down. I get injured, this shoulder injury. I tear a tendon in my shoulder.
And how did you do that?
Drumming on Broadway too hard. Dicka, dicka, dicka. Boom. I would do these crashes, and it would whip my hand down, and it would pull this. So I had to do a lot of physical therapy, and that was probably the hardest injury to recover from, because having a shoulder injury is a bit different, because this was like painful. It felt like it needed to be in like
a sling,
which I never did. But it took probably 6 months of a lot of mental perseverance and physical therapy and acceptance that I'll never be able to play drums as hard as that and as much as I want again, which is a very hard thing to deal with. I've already kind of dealt with that with my hands, but like, I think that kind of gives me a different element than most musicians, because I don't really know anyone my age who has gone through this many injuries and really has had to level with themselves about the mortality of playing an instrument, and like knowing that it's not permanent, and knowing that I don't have the same amount of time as other people, because my body physically cannot do it. So whenever I sit down with an instrument or I do music, it is way more intentional than I'd say probably 80% of people. Like,
because you're thinking to yourself, I'm only going to be able to do this for so long today before it starts to hurt, or before I start risking,
or getting inflammation, and like,
and then that could put you it'll either put you out or put you playing, and it is physically painful.
And it's been very hard uphill battle, but I think at the same time it's a blessing, because I kind of know what's coming for all of us at the end of this. And I feel like there's more strength and in having to face those things that you feel like you can't overcome, and then overcoming them. So I think that's put me in like a really like grateful state with music and just being able to play. So like, bro, when I play, I fucking mean that shit. It's not sitting in front of the TV anymore, just wanking off. Like, if I'm doing music, I'm either learning, creating, or making money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, like...
So what year was that?
That was the start of 2022. Bam. All that shit. And I had gotten into this relationship, too, with my current girlfriend, Jess. She's great. You know, she was so supportive and, you know, helped me get through all that during that time. So, shout out to Jess. And the band kind of fell apart with Near. And we started to just...
When you Do you want to expand on that a little
Yeah,
bit?
I mean, me and him definitely clashed because he had a way of doing things and I kind of had a way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was open-minded, so like I kind of just like followed his lead. And he had a good I trusted his judgment. He's a good arranger and producer. It was just kind of taking away it kind of in a weird way with the dynamic of everyone took away my sauce and influence in it. Kind of drained it a little bit,
Okay.
which kind of created some weird vibes, but we were still working so hard that I didn't think anything of it. And then after I got injured, they wanted to re-record all this stuff that we had worked so hard for, and like
So mostly like creative differences, basically.
creative differences, but then personal differences when they tried to basically like replace me and like re-record all the stuff without me. And that really pissed me off and there were some other things with like saying I didn't look a certain way because I don't have long hair, I'm not skinny. And like I would
Well, welcome to the club.
and I would wear shorts sometimes. So like I got hate for that, which already made me insecure.
Well, look,
the
the only person who's allowed to wear shorts
is the
to
drummer.
the gig is the drummer. I
Thank
will
you.
say that your frontman. Listen, I know everyone should just do their thing. But don't wear shorts on stage
Right.
unless you're in a Jimmy Buffett cover band. Don't wear shorts on stage. That's my hot take. I love all of you. But if I see you wearing shorts on stage, know that I'm judging you.
But-
unless you're the drummer. Because the drummer sits down.
Yeah, and that being said, like we ended it and like I'm not one to hold on to things. Like it's all love now. And like looking back, I can definitely see what I could have done differently. I think we can all see that, right?
Yeah,
Like
that's one of those things that comes
yeah.
with time.
Yeah, so like it's all love. Like we keep up. Everyone is keeping up with each other, right? It's all good. But that kind of ended and it was really intense, right? Like and I got the job at the airport around this time.
Mm-hmm.
We started kind of working with Tim a little bit again and it just went really south. We had got this really big job.
Tim is the
construction mentor.
Yeah.
Which he's amazing person.
Uh-huh.
So generous, bro. Like patient man. But I ran his patience thin one too many times. And I just wasn't getting it. And we had this really intense job at a mansion. Like really. And they were, to be fair, like we weren't doing that bad of a job. That mansion was so out of level. Like even the corners were like that, man. So we're having to do a lot of custom trim. And the trim, I think I have a booger on my face. The trim is like,
good.
the trim is like, I'm sorry. The trim is like
all good,
giant.
bro.
The trim's giant, right? So like way more effort.
So you're trying to square like crown molding and shit?
Crown molding, but like the biggest fucking crown molding you've ever seen. Like 3-part crown molding.
Go big or go home,
And it's
bro.
giant ceilings. And also it's so heavy. But then you have like very specific cuts and orchestration to align with the way out of fucking whack wall or corner. So it was a bunch of that. And like they kind of heard us arguing because Tim would, lose his temper. Not like lash out, but like you could tell there was tension and that we weren't as smart as we should be. So we lost that. And then I got
He lost.
He lost. That was the only job Tim had ever gotten fired from. So we kind of parted ways. But Tim's great, dude. He helped us. He's helped us.
Well, look,
since
here's the thing that people need to understand is like we're in a time where if you want to be in a creative lifestyle and do creative things, there's always going to be a level of compromise where you're going to have to do things that you don't want to do every once in a while to sustain this life.
Oh yeah. I think it's so silly thinking that you can just play music for a living.
Well,
Like,
like you can not here.
And that's what's funny is that this is the place where a lot of people do, and they tout it as you can, which I really think you can, but like it is so much work, it is so much traveling for not even that good of pay.
Yeah.
Like why would I put myself through that when I can work a few days at like a serving job or a coffee shop and make that same amount, and then I can do I can focus and have intention behind what I put my energy towards musically as an artist, as someone in a band. I just have way more intention because I'm not clouded by these random gigs that honestly don't matter and they don't serve you.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'd rather just work a little bit on the side and then play. Like I like a mix. I don't just want to go full work and then just play music in my room or like, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I do like to have musical income streams. I think that's the best advice I ever got as a musician, like trying to make it, is my first drum teacher just told me, he was like, "Man, if you want to make this work, you have to just have a lot of different income streams."
Mm-hmm.
He called it like swords in the fire. He's like, "Yeah, man, I arrange for people and I record them. I'm teaching you these drums right now. I go and play this gig right over here. Like, I'm doing these like beats for these commercials over here. Like, so there's definitely room for all that." So that's kind of how I think, is like, how much can I just kind of do here and there? Because I could never be a full-time Broadway player. I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to be. It's exhausting, bro. And
Those gigs take a lot.
it'll wear you out, man. So like I like keeping Broadway 1 to 3 times max a week. If
Mhm.
it's a really busy
And by that you mean shifts, not days. Because
Shifts.
we know guys that play
all day.
all day. And when I say all day, I mean 12 hours
12 hours, man.
a day. And it's usually straight.
Gabe Page,
Yeah.
probably
Shout out to Gabe. That dude,
like is a monster.
one, he's an alien player. He's so
Yep.
good.
Absolutely.
And two, dude is just like a straight machine. Like he can play any and everything and does for like 8 to 12 hours almost every day.
Yeah. And he is like so friendly, so nice, great dude, just so in it.
Yeah.
And like I've never seen anyone be able to so gracefully approach any song or situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it's different in a jam setting, like how you weave in a jam. I'm talking like, hey, you got to play this song you've never played before. You might know a little bit of it. Show me what you got. That dude can like make it work really. He makes it seem effortless.
Yeah.
So, you know, good on him. And yeah, great player. And we've been playing with him now for like probably 6 months
Mhm.
or 4. Dude,
It's been
almost-
6.
Bro,
It's June.
bro.
It's been 6 months, bro.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I think it's been damn near exactly 6 months because my first gig was January 13th.
And bro, look at the gig we did last weekend.
Yeah.
We've come so far. I knew we would get to that point, and I think we're still evolving it. So after a year of this, man, oh yeah, we'll definitely be on some shit.
We're locking in, man. It's
We
it's
are.
the thing about Broadway gigs is that they are inherently going to be different every week
Mm-hmm.
because you're taking so many requests. And sometimes you get a little series of requests that is stuff that you don't know as a group, but that you individually know, and it comes off very well.
Yeah,
And there are times when you're honestly like actually trying to learn the song on the spot and it doesn't
Yeah.
go so well. And so those two scenarios shift the valence positively or negatively as they come.
yeah,
And so the gig can feel like you're just kicking ass the whole time. Or it can feel like you are
Yeah.
teetering on the brink of disaster for half of it.
kicking ass or dragging ass.
Yeah.
And you know, we get the times where we're dragging, but sometimes you get a little bit of both in a show.
Yep.
You know, 4 hours is a long time.
You can catch a second or third wind
Yeah.
depending on the shift in the crowd and stuff.
Yeah.
And I do think that it's a great training ground for versatility, technicality,
Yeah.
and stamina
Yeah.
because you don't really get breaks. Now, I think I get more time off stage than any
Yeah.
of you guys because
Yeah.
I'm going to like run the bucket.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like
You're working.
you're not
You're not free to go.
Yeah, it's like, no, you got to go talk to these people.
Mhm.
But that's something that is required in this industry because those are skills that you take everywhere. Your ability to walk up to a stranger and immediately have some kind of meaningful interaction.
You have to have good chat, man. And honestly, I've been an extrovert my whole life. And I think I developed good chat in college around community. But man, do I even have better chat now working at a coffee shop at the airport where I have so many conversations that I can navigate small talk really well. I can make people feel good if they're feeling bad. And I think, yeah, you really have to know how to just communicate with people, be a good hang. I mean, it's cliche as it sounds, like it's just be a good
Yeah.
hang and like just be cool and like, you know, yeah, it's all good.
So we've kind of made our way through your like history of getting out here.
Yeah.
You know, when I moved out here in January, you and Jacob hooked me up with the gig, playing with
Yep.
you guys and Gabe, and I so appreciate that.
Yeah.
We did go through that little stint in May where
Yeah.
it got a little sketch there for a
Yeah.
second, but
Yeah.
we're back on that.
Yeah.
We're back on that shift, and they've been throwing us some more shifts.
Yeah. I think
which
we've
is
proved
so funny to
ourselves.
me.
Well, because they didn't even know who we are. And like they hear that like bar sales were down that month. And he's got this new band.
Yeah,
You
which
know,
when they say new band, it
it's
was
a
the
whole
same. It was
situation.
3 of the same guys and me.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah,
And so I think that ties in with the kind of endish of the story of my musical journey with friends here is after the honeymoons thing fell through, Victor joined this band called Hippies and Cowboys. And he started getting a lot of success and great shows with them on Broadway. They now headline like Kid Rock's main stage, which is probably like the biggest bar you make the most money at, right? So he started going viral with his stuff.
yeah.
So
Victor shreds,
yeah, Victor's awesome.
and Victor just looks cool. I hate him so much.
He looks like Jimmy Page.
He does look like Jimmy Page.
So yeah,
Bro, dude looks kind of eerily similar to Jimmy
I
Page.
never noticed it until other people started saying it, and I think low key he started kind
I
of
think leaning into it a little bit.
leaning into it. Well, we also would do like a lot of Zeppelin tributes over the years. Like we would take our time learning Zeppelin songs. So
That was the first thing about you. The first time I heard you guys live, it was probably at the Flip Side, and y'all did Good Times, Bad Times, and I heard him doing the like eighth note triplets,
yeah,
and I was like, he's playing that with one pedal. He wasn't cheating.
yeah.
He was playing it like Bonham did with one pedal.
Oh yeah, thanks.
And I was like, this is sick. Because I remember when I was in middle school and I played drums, attempting to do that.
Yeah,
and I was like, damn, this is hard.
It's the one that really pushes. It's a make or break thing, and you know, they basically Hippies had this gig at Nudies, but when they got Kid Rock's main stage, they had to give it up. Aaron couldn't front it, which is the singer.
And explain why.
Because I think he's like the image of the band. He's so like
No, but whose rule is it that he couldn't front?
Yeah, it's the Tootsie Circuit rule. It's the monopoly that is on Broadway. There's probably like 2 monopolies on Broadway, maybe 3, of just groups that just hoard all the bars and they make
it's companies where they say circuit, right?
Yeah.
And that what they're talking about is Tootsie's, the bar, also has it's a company that owns several bars. Right,
Yes.
and they're competing with the other companies
that
own
own
the
several
other,
bars.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there's that dynamic. So yeah, they had some contractual clause where they couldn't play Nudies. But the band Hippies and Cowboys was playing Nudies, and Leo, the homie, was starting to front. Victor was playing it too. So at the same time that this is happening, Victor and Leo kind of formed this band, this solo project, kind of when I got injured and we were just in a lull, called Calico Mantra. And they started doing that a lot, writing all the time. And, you know, I would play drums on it, whatever. But around that time, I'd say like summer, fall of 2022, I would say, my shoulder had pretty much healed. And then we started doing stuff as that entity. And we had Joe in it at the time too, doing like synth stuff. So that band kind of started then, and eventually, I'd say maybe the start of 2023, spring, winter, the Hippies stopped playing that gig completely.
the Nudies gig,
And then Calico Mantra started playing that Nudies gig. So I really had that. I started playing on Broadway again at 2023. after I had stopped playing it for like basically a whole year.
Mm-hmm.
So got back on, and man, it was such a great time. We would also play with this guy named Lambie a lot.
Yeah,
This
you
guitar player,
mentioned him.
dude, awesome player, great dude. He's always kind of hit me up for random country gigs sometimes. So,
Mm-hmm.
and great player, and he's got like that old school thing, but he really brings like the jazz element of country.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Like the
he
Western swing type vibe.
Western swing, man, and it's such a cool style that
Mm-hmm.
like people don't even really realize is a thing, but he kills that. So shout out to
Nice.
him. He's great. And we would do that. The 2023 run was great. Calico Mantra started doing a lot more. We're releasing songs, and I was just getting frustrated with that because the same dynamics started appearing that ended the last band, and it's this dynamic where it didn't feel equal between all the members.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still feeling like I have to drum in a box. I can't really be myself. And it's not just like they didn't want that from me. It was just also now it's like this music really doesn't even call for that. It was like David Bowie, early John Lennon stuff, which I can't, with a good conscience, play crazy shit over that
Yeah.
because it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just kind of boring, and it didn't feel like that.
Well, if you're feeling like you're not expressing yourself,
Yeah, it just didn't feel like I could. It didn't really feel like it had
and
space.
it's different because it's an original act. It's not a cover.
Yeah,
gig.
and I'm not getting paid for it, and I'm putting
Right.
time. I'm putting a lot of time and effort. So
Yeah.
I think I got kind of bitter after a while, and like it was fun at first. I would say like it was like okay, let's explore this, but man, I'd say probably after a year of that, like the end of 2024, it was kind of like, man, I'm getting kind of tired of this.
Mhm.
And Leo ended up this year, like the end of last year, got into this band called Connor Kelly.
Okay.
And so the Calico thing's kind of like not even a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is, but I don't think any of us are like really pursuing it right now. But Leo's got a thing with this great, like, kind of alternative rock band. And he recently quit Hippies and Cowboys. And he's just kind of, I think he's just chilling, teaching and stuff. And then I've been doing the solo thing. I mean, I haven't even mentioned, since I moved to Nashville, I've released probably like 10 albums.
Yeah. And
So-
I want to get into that. So like talk to me about your solo projects that you've been doing since you've been here, because it's because I met you as like Max is like a badass like rock and roll drummer who also really is into like the funk
Fusion
and the
stuff.
fusion like jazz elements. And now a lot of your stuff is like you're making beats with like a sampler.
Yeah, so I forgot to even bring up any of that stuff. When I was living with Jacob in like 2017, I had started seeing this beat go around on like Pickup Jazz, remember that page?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like this really drunken feel, this swingy type thing. And I'm like, bro, that shit feels so cool. What is this? And I'm on YouTube one night, and I just see this like monkey, this like turquoise monkey on the YouTube thing, this album. I just keep seeing this. Let me just click on it. And it was Hiatus Coyote's Choose Your Weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And I just put it on through Max speakers and like just sat on the couch, probably smoked a bowl, and was so dumbfounded.
Yeah, they're insane, dude.
Because that drummer was doing the thing that I had been hearing, and I was like, bro, what is this? I just pictured this like New York jazz band, like
It's like Soulquarians type
yeah,
shit.
I was literally picturing like the Soulquarians
Mhm.
playing this
Like-
in like a club
like
at like
Voodoo
like
or-
Naboo, like playing at like Nabulu in New York,
Uh-huh.
right? But like really, they're from Melbourne, Australia, and like what an amazing group. So that kind of, it was that album, and it was also Thundercats Drunk,
Yeah.
where I had never heard anyone write music that was so literal and
Mhm.
felt so of the time.
Yeah, that was
and-
very of that moment.
It was very of that moment, and it really resonated with me because I hadn't, prior to that, the only band that I'd really liked was Wolfpack. Also, oh my god,
Yeah.
Wolfpack.
We both
2015 when Thrill of the Arts came out, I was like, this is the best band on earth.
Yeah.
So shout out to Wolf. I can't even talk about them enough. I feel like I was their biggest fan for maybe 3 years.
I feel like we all went through that phase.
We
it was
did.
like as soon as we heard
That,
dude, when I heard 1612, I was like,
What is
God, I was like, dude, like this is everything.
It's so now. So I've constantly been searching for what is so like raw and now and like almost like punk. I love punk. And like what is more punk than Jack Stratton funding an entire tour from releasing an album of silence so they generate income? Like fuck you to Spotify and the big, and so
Sleepify.
and their whole production aspect, how they did the videos, one camera, the recording, literally production, like Jack Stratton like revolutionized production. He is like one of the most iconic engineers now.
Yeah, he found a way to get that dry, like it was like he found a way to produce records that sounded like old Motown if they didn't have their reverb chambers.
Yeah. And like, but with like the snare drum of like ABBA.
But with and using digital interfaces, like it somehow sounds analog.
So good. And so to tie it back into what I was saying, it was Highest Coyote, Thundercat, and then we're sitting around one day and Jacob's like, bro, have you ever heard Jay Dilla? I was like, what? And he literally was like, oh, bro, you got to hear this. And
it's so funny to me that Jacob introduced you to Jay Dilla.
Yeah, dude, Jacob is fucking so cool, bro. He put me on to he inspired me to make music, like produce my own music, and put me on to like some of my favorite bands, right? So we just sit there, listen to all of Donuts. His like iPhone like kind of perched up on this like little like bookshelf, and we're just like I'm like sitting like this, and he's just standing the whole time with this like just pushing on his lip, and it was like I couldn't believe what I was hearing because I heard the Wolfpack in it. I heard the Hiatus Coyote in it. I heard the Thundercat in it. And it made me realize like this dude, this music helped spark that stuff. And so it turns out Wolfpack used the 303, which is the box that Jay Dilla, Madlib all made a bunch of beats on. It's got this really unique compression. And that is now the Wolf compressor, right? So I heard the Wolfpack, the Highest Coyote, that beat. I was like, where did this beat come from? And then you hear Donuts. Even though Donuts doesn't even have that much lag or anything, you hear it in like songs like Bye or High.
And it's because of the way that he was creating that stuff. So like explain to people who might not, one, know who Jay Dilla is, because there's going to be some of those.
Yeah.
Talk about how he made his music and why, because I know that you love a lag beat now, bro.
That's what we call it. It almost feels like disrespectful. It's just swing, right?
But it's swung. It's
a quintuplet swing,
but it's against a straight groove.
Well,
kind of.
It's a straight kick drum, and usually the snare is a little bit rushed. That's usually how it goes. You have this like this in between straight and traditional shuffle. So it's technically a quintuplet thing, but it's not da 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 da, and it's not da 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 da. It's da 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 da. So you find that sweet spot on the hi-hat. The snare is not bon cha, it's bon cha, bon cha. Almost like a 16th note thing, but not. It's hard to kind of do that with my mouth. Yeah. And then the kick is usually always just da 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 da, like very straight, right? So when you mix those elements, da 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 da, it creates these flams with the, and then the hat's flamming with that, and it's a really amazing phenomenon. It kind of changed how I thought about drums. Because it's almost like, oh wait,
it's antithetical to the pocket lock-in.
But it is pocket because
you have to have one.
Yeah, you have to have pocket because
to do it.
Because what I did that not a lot of people do. I mean, of course, I would just put on Dilla mixes for 5 hours and just loop and play the same thing to get the feel. But I would put on a click to make sure I wasn't delusional. To make sure I wasn't dragging. So I found how it actually fits. Like you have to really dissect it and see how it fits in the pocket and feel it against something that is unwavering.
What's
Right?
funny to me is like, I think, but didn't that come out of him making those, the way he was making those beats is by playing samples. He's like playing pads
I think maybe
with chopped up samples.
maybe in the beginning, like he was copying stuff from not Dr. Dre, not Grandma. What is his name? The producer, J-Rock, I think.
I am not as versed.
There's the guy that was doing stuff like Q-Tip, A Tribe Called Quest stuff. It was similar. Basically the antithesis or the predecessor, right? And so he was kind of doing that with sampling, but Jay Dilla literally programmed those feels because the MPC, like you could shift stuff.
Right.
So like he started experimenting with that. And like I do think samples,
But I think that's what that that's what that rushed snare thing is born out of.
Yeah, exactly. It's inherently from him hearing these chopped samples.
Because it's people trying. Because like if you've never played like an MPC, if you've never played like a drum set on pads, it's easy because it's like you get used to playing drums a certain way. But if you're using your fingers, it's easy because the distances are obviously shorter.
Yeah,
and like and the feel of the pads is going to be different. So it's easy to kind of rush something. So you could have like your hi-hat hand steady and like the way that the way that the samples respond to the pad is different.
And like the song Runnin' Pharmacide, like that wasn't like he didn't do his MPC thing. Like, so yeah, you're right. It comes from him hearing these pushes and pulls in the music from chopping samples. And chopping samples is basically just taking like a segment of music and finding little parts that can fit together. So it's basically like analog collage where you cut out something, you put it there, but a little bit more, there's another layer to it. It's a whole other like dimension to it.
And there's digital manipulation with like, tempo,
which and quantization, which you can start making things line up perfectly. Then you can build from there and be like, I really want this hi-hat way behind.
So talk about your process now. Like how did that influence what you're doing and what you've been up to?
Yeah, so to tie it in with my original music, it really made me want to incorporate this new, I think of it as like a new beat in the past, like the newest beat in the past 10, 20 years that's been developed. So why wouldn't I see that through and see how far we can take it and apply it to different contexts? Because I've always had this thought, especially when I was in like like when I started hearing that, I was like, well, how can I fit this into like a rock setting? And I think the closest thing to it, like imagining, is like Meg White from the White Stripes and Ringo. And Yes. So Yes, surprisingly, Chris Squire's bass lines are very similar to like a lot of the bass lines that these hip hop producers used. There's some sort of correlation. I don't know how it's, but they sound similar. So when I hear Yes, I'm like, oh dude, a flam there, a would work so well. Or like, so I can hear it in rock music. And that's put me in a lot of trouble here in Nashville because a lot of people don't get it. But the people that don't get it, I've had to accept that it's not me that's playing it wrong because I've put in the work to make sure I'm playing it right. And I'm not dragging. I'm not just all over the place. It is intentional, the feel. A lot of people just don't get it. And it's also one of the things, even if people get it, you kind of have to just know how your part fits in that. So like if I'm doing a lag, it doesn't mean everyone else lags.
Yeah.
It just means
you're intentionally changing the feel of it. Because you do that when we do War Pigs.
Yeah.
You go into it and it's like, and it gives it a whole different feel. And I feel like it catches people off guard. I think that's what they're responding to. It's almost visceral. Because they're like, what the fuck are you doing to War Pigs? I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I think it's, like you said, when you're doing it intentionally, it gives it a whole different
A whole other meaning.
thing. But some people, if they don't think of it that way, then that's just on them.
And I think in a Broadway setting, it's harder to get across like the vision that I have with it. I think in a setting where everyone knows the function of what their part should be, makes it make more sense. And I think that ties back into like the original music. Is I've basically been trying to craft that since I started releasing music, is how can I fuse this beat into elements of rock, and just how can this beat work in all different sort of contexts that's not just R&B or hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just a feel.
Yeah.
You can put that feel anywhere, and like it'll make some interesting
So
things.
how about we do this? I've got your Spotify pulled up, and is there a track
Oh yeah, we
that
can go
you
all the way back.
that you feel like, because I want to show people what we're talking about right now.
Okay.
What do you think would like most quickly contextualize what we've been talking about?
Pull up stuff. Go to my albums. Show all. Keep going down. Just go down a good bit. 3, 4, 5, 6. That one. So go to the second song, We Are I.
We Are I.
I think this is a good example of it in a sort of not R&B context.
Okay.
B part. Straight. Bass is rushing.
Mm-hmm.
Comes a little bit behind.
That's funky as shit, bro.
Thanks, bro. Back to it. And let's go to some more, because I have so many examples of this. Let me see here. There's another one. Keep going down a little bit. Go to URI. Or no. I'm trying to find one that's like, because some of the lags are like only in the middle of the song or something.
Okay.
So go to really early stuff. I'll show you how far back it goes. So this is the first one that's on Spotify, but I have one that's also, go to Vagabond up there, and down. It's the first track on that Flower album.
Right here?
Yeah. So this also uses it too. That rush one was crazy. So it's all in my music. I wouldn't say it's all I do. Like, I love so much kinds of music. I could never just put myself in a box.
Don't get me wrong, bro. Like you in any context, man, like you can lock into like whatever it is.
Thanks, bro.
Like when if we're playing Good Times, Bad Times,
it sound like Bottom, right?
That shit sounds exactly like it needs to sound. You know, it's not.
Try.
And that's the thing that people have to understand. Like you said, like these are intentional choices. And just because it doesn't fit into the box of what people are used to hearing,
Exactly.
doesn't make it wrong.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it wrong.
And I think sometimes, like, I get it if I'm on a gig, a professional gig, we're playing covers, I'm not going to do that shit.
Yeah. It just depends.
But if I'm with friends, I think they owe it to me to know who I am and be able to have a conversation with me on the shit that I know. Because it's not that far off.
I think all of this shit comes down to context.
Yeah.
Is like, and expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go into a gig, like when you go into a gig with an original band and you come into it and you're like, we are 4 equal parts of this, or 3 or whatever it is, right? And we are choosing to engage in this band because we all trust each other to add our own thing to it.
Yep.
And this is what we expect.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. When
you go into a situation where it's like if you walked into like the first band meeting of whatever band, and I'm like, I'm hypothetically now.
Yeah.
And you go, and they said, hey, yo, Max, mad respect. We love the laggy stuff that you do in your solo thing.
Just not here.
That's not what that's going to be. Yeah. You got to say that shit up front.
Yeah. And that's fine. But if I'm not going to be able to express myself the way I want to, then pay up, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Pay me.
Mm-hmm.
Pay me.
Because now I'm just here providing a service for you.
Because then that puts me in that mindset of, if I'm just serving the music, that's cool. I love that. But I've been doing it so long now, I deserve to be paid for it. And I can do it well.
Yeah.
I've been doing it professionally.
You're a chameleon.
Thanks.
In that way.
As a drummer, I feel like I've been through so much formal training that I can pretty much adapt. I'm not saying I'm like the best drummer right now. I'm just saying you can put me in any genre and I can get away with it.
Yeah.
Even if it's straight ahead, even if it's reggae, man. Like, I just love all that music, and I've spent a lot of time playing to that music, not just like shedding, but like what makes this music good, and just sitting there and being with it. So like, I think that's so important as a musician, not as an artist, not as a player, as a musician, knowing your function in the music depending on the style. And it's so important. People
depending
say,
on the style and the professional context.
But like when we go to artistry, like, let me say something. Let me challenge your beliefs, because I feel like that is kind of what I represent as an artist, is let me show you something that you didn't expect. Let me show you something that you didn't think was possible. And not in a way that's showy, but in a way that makes kind of it's this sort of thing, this like aggression, this nasty thing that's so beautiful, and like we all have it inside of us. And I think that's what I want people to feel, is that little creative crazy spark in you. I'm trying to bring that out when I do that, because me doing that is going to ignite it in you. And however you choose to do that, I fuck with, because you're just doing the same, you're emitting the same frequency. So like, I think that's where a lot of people don't realize, is like, we're just vibrations, man. I just have some wooden sticks in my hand, and I'm just trying to vibrate with you. And like, as long as we're on the same vibration, it's cool, right?
Yeah.
As long as we can all agree on this is the thing that's happening. So yeah, man, it's beautiful when people get it, but still people love to talk shit on it because it's different. And honestly, I love being a little bit different, especially as an artist. That's the whole point to me, is to find your own sound. So that's been my sound, is this kind of flopping fish. It sounds like a flopping fish sometimes, but like, that's kind of what I'm going for. But mixing it with things that give it the context.
So tell me, because like in your most recent stuff, like talk me through your process, like on this album, Michelle.
Yeah. So this was just a collection of recordings that I had done over the past like year, and they're
kind of short pieces.
They're just all videos of me just making shit for social media. That's all this music is music for content. But at the same time, I'm trying to show that those things are the same thing. We've reached the point where it's the same thing. So I'm just showing you that I can upload, because also fuck Spotify and fuck streaming services, because I'm never going to get a ton of plays or make any sort of, I'm not going to get anything valuable from Spotify, like as opposed to like TikTok or Instagram. Like if I had 20,000 somethings on an Instagram thing, that has way more value than something on Spotify.
Yeah.
It just doesn't have the same value in our society. So I'm not going to put as much effort into making things for Spotify anymore as I am for social media, because that is just where everyone's putting their energy.
Well, that's what's interesting is like, because you the way that you're approaching it is you are documenting those times that you are playing.
Yeah.
And you're expressing yourself as an artist, and you're doing that with visuals.
Yeah. And so, that was the hardest thing to do at first.
So you're doing that, but then it's like, okay, well, I'm putting this effort in. Mm-hmm. The byproduct are these little short pieces. Throw those up on Spotify.
Yeah, they're just the Spotify's the afterthought. It's like, oh well, I've got these pieces. Okay, I really liked these 10, so I'm just gonna throw these up on Spotify. And I always do like the legacy thing, because I just want people to always have access to that music. Mm-hmm. So yeah, man.
So like when you're using, what is the little like
So
thing?
I have a couple things, right? So my main thing is an OP1, which I discovered in 2018 when I thought I wasn't gonna be able to play anymore and I was gonna be a plumber. Found this thing called OP1, and it's like a sampler, synth, radio, 4-track tape recording dock, and so much more. Vocoder, like anything, man.
And who makes it?
It's a sampler and drum engine too. And Teenage Engineering makes it. Okay. And it's been around since like the early 2010s, maybe 2010. And no one really picked up on it. And then I've kind of seen people use it more in the past 5 years than I did the entire decade it was released. So I got one when I moved to Nashville. Finally, right? I had this bread stacked up from construction and playing music. I was like, oh, dude, I'm getting this thing. And man, it took a little bit of a while to figure out how it works. But basically, I started being able to make my own J Dilla beats on this thing, but in a not J Dilla way. Like, it's a whole other instrument that wasn't made for that. So I learned that you can like loop on the tape deck. So I would be like, oh, let me just sample this thing real quick and then loop it. And then I can add the drums
and bass and guitar and all kinds of stuff over it.
And you can sample the radio. So I could just, even if I didn't have the chords and the records, you can literally just
turn the radio on the thing and then like grab something.
It comes with a radio attachment if you want clear signal. I'll just scan the channels. Dude, I have stuff on my first 2 albums where I use it like a lot. Like the first album, like half of it is radio samples.
Can we hear an example of that?
I'll show you an example. So keep going down to Maxxwellhouse. Not volume
1.
Yeah. So go to like My Love Is.
Okay.
This is just a country song that I heard.
So I had to sing a song about all the things I knew. My love is so about my so about
bro.
So about my love is so about my so about.
Not to toot my own horn, but like I think I'm onto some shit with that, right? Go to Cowboy. That doesn't have any added drums underneath. That is just pure chopping.
Okay.
And this is also a country song. I flipped the beat. So the original drums, and I flipped it to this. And it's just that Dilla. the reverb chain just.
Yeah.
I smashed the compressor on the Wolf compressor, and I pushed that instrument, and it gives it this like gritty effect.
Mm-hmm.
And I do. There, go to the last one. This was the first thing I ever sampled that was on this album.
This right here?
Yeah.
Give?
Yep. It was some Christian song, and I just.
Is that
The reverse.
is that
And I also have, so go to college. That's just someone talking, and I added like stuff around it too.
Okay.
even though I got to all my friends in my college, even though I got to all my friends in my college, even though I got to all my friends in my college, even though I got to all my friends in my even though I got to all my friends in my college, even though I got to all my friends in my college, even though I got to all my friends in my college.
Did you add that?
Just the vocals to sample.
Even though I got to all my friends.
And this is all in the OP1.
Even though I got
Nice.
to all my
All in
friends
the
in my
OP1. All in the box.
And then eventually,
And then the flip.
and then eventually discover the side of myself. And then eventually discover the side of myself. And then eventually
The kicks.
discover the side of myself. Discover the side of myself.
Okay, so here's my question that I feel like naturally follows is like, how have you like collaborated with like hip hop artists to like rap over this?
I've tried, and no one gets back to me. I have collaborated with one guy recently.
Okay.
Named Jay Terry, but it's nothing like this style. It was a beat like I made on the machine, just a kit, like a drum thing, and then we had played some guitar, so it doesn't really feel like this.
But that would be so unique.
Yeah,
Because
and
like and look, I don't think every part of it
yeah,
would work to have another vocal on top of it.
Yeah.
But like even with that, like
Even though I got to all my friends in my college, even though I got to
Yeah.
all my friends
Hold
in
on.
my college, even though I got to all my friends in my college, even though I got to all my friends in my college,
because like
even though
You could rap over that.
You could rap over it, or that could be a hook.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That is the hook.
And then eventually discover the side of myself.
And then when the vocals cut, you could rap.
Right here. Even that, even over that, because
discover the side of myself, and then eventually
and then eventually that starts to lose its
Effect.
it starts to lose the communicative, like
Yeah.
you're not thinking about the word anymore. It
Exactly.
just becomes like
Exactly.
So like I feel like someone could rap over that
And use eventually in spaces.
Yeah.
So trust me, I've done it, but it's so. I'm just not a rapper.
Mhm.
I need someone who's really
who can deliver it with conviction.
deliver the conviction and the culture. I'm just
Yeah.
not. That's not me. I can do a bunch of dope shit, but that's not one of the things that
Yeah.
is dope. So when I would do it by myself, I'd be like, this just isn't.
Like that's not authentic to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Making this is authentic to you,
Yeah.
but like, dude, it could be sick, man.
And it changes the way I thought about making music in general, just with guitar and bass. And
Yeah.
drums. Like it changed the way I think about music.
And I've seen you
even.
use OP1 to create a loop or a layer, and then you're playing like almost jazzy sounding drum things.
So if you go up, there's kind of stuff where I started incorporating like here, that Go Down one, that Joy and Pain one is like it's mixing the OP1 beats with like me writing stuff. So like go to the Joy and Pain right there. So that's OP. then that kind of changed. I kind of experimented with like how can the drums and bass or guitar and bass interact with the OP1.
Someone could rap over this.
Yeah, they could.
Right
I
now.
mean, I sang over all this stuff, but yeah, man, it's when there's a will, there's a way.
Dope, bro.
No matter what the other people say. Bleeding from the inside. Dreaming on the outside. Yeah, so I've still got stuff like that. I think now my sound, I've kind of combined all of it, where I'm taking these heavy, weird samples and things that I make on the OP1 or the KO2, and then adding bass and guitar.
Yeah.
So like it's kind of fusing this and then the samples, because the samples already fill up so much space. But now I'm realizing how guitar can fit into that. So if you go to my most recent album, that's when I've kind of realized it is like just the first one even. Like how can I, and this is the Song Remains the Same, the end of Song Remains the Same, that guitar, and I just added a drum beat on top, delayed hi-hat, so that's why it, and some cream guitar on top.
Yeah.
And I think that I finally achieved like such a unique sound as an artist. I feel like I can say that. I'm not saying I'm like great or I'm a creative genius, but like I definitely think this is really unique to me. Like I don't know anyone that sounds like that.
Yeah.
Bonham had technique, but he couldn't swing a fucking sack of shit.
Bow, wow, bow, bow, down, down. So what I'm doing is to tie all this in, this whole podcast, my artistry, all of it. The first thing that got me into music, which felt like a lightning bolt, was Cream's White Room. And you can hear the clear influence on my guitar playing. It sounds almost exactly like the tone. That was the spark for me. And I don't know, when I first happened, I didn't think that is where I was going, was that. But it took me all over this musical journey. And I'm coming back to the very thing that sparked it. That's, I think, the goal of any artist, is to reach in and remember what was the spark of music for you, what inspired you to do it. And then you take that and bring it into the light with your own thing on it. But that's where it gets blurry. Your own thing on it is the 10-year journey of you exploring and putting in the work and trying all these different things, which I've done. So now it's bringing me back to the place it started, but with all of these new friends, ideas. So I'm bringing my Zeppelin, I'm bringing the Cream that I love, that got me into music, but now I've got Jay Dilla, and I have all of the rock and roll and all the grit with it. So it's funny how it's kind of coming back to where it started. And I think that's my sound, is that the Cream White Room guitar with kind of these really raw beats
That you made out of Led Zeppelin.
that I
samples.
made out of those samples from that music.
Yeah.
That's where my artistry, I think, lies, and that is what makes me unique to myself. So anyone who wants to know, that's kind of what I'm going for.
Right on,
At least
man.
right now.
Hell yeah, dude. I love, and if you're in Nashville and you can look up Max and catch one of his shows with his trio, Do you have any shows coming up soon?
Yes, I have 2. And it's funny, we didn't even talk about the trio. That's been
I
a
know.
whole other journey of musical expression. But we have a show July 15th, and we have a show July 28th.
Okay. Where are the shows?
The 15th is at the Underdog, and then
Yep.
the 28th is at the End.
Okay.
And yeah, both in Nashville. They're not gonna be the original lineup because Marcus is out of town.
Okay.
So I have a fill-in drummer, and like low-key, I might play drums for the 28th one. I don't know yet. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
Right on. Very cool.
But yeah, that's kind of the plan right now.
Nice, man. Okay, so I want to do a like little like lightning round at
Okay.
the end of this of some questions,
Sure.
just like gut reaction.
Okay. Greta Van Fleet.
Oh my god. The amount of energy that band has made me and you both waste is kind of absurd.
know.
Okay. Are you ready for the lightning round, buddy?
1 sec. We've been talking for
Yeah, bro.
2 hours straight.
I know,
love
man.
it.
This is the longest episode that we've done so far.
Damn.
Okay. Your dream collab, dead or alive, who would it be?
To play drums with Jimi Hendrix and Billy Cox on bass. Just because that's the 70s.
Yeah.
I love
nice.
Noel, but
Billy Cox had a different kind of pocket.
him
bro.
and Hendrix
Yeah.
are more connected.
Okay. We've kind of covered this a little bit, but like if you had to pick a song that changed your life.
White Room, Cream,
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah. What is your earliest memory of music?
My grandfather playing guitar and singing. It's kind of what sparked it, I think.
How old would you have been?
Like an infant, like throughout my years as a child, bringing
Right
it out.
What's your first band name?
Damn. I can't think of it. It was the Resistance.
The Resistance.
It was the Resistance. Bro.
Would that have been with Victor?
No, this is pre-Victor. This is like with my friend Nathan Huvard. You might know Nathan. He was a Clayton guy. He actually graduated from Yale, and like, dude's like an amazing classical guitar player, jazz guitar player. Bro is like a freaking he is insane. Like he came over. I hadn't seen him for like 7 years, and he came over one time to Jacob's house in between schooling, and the shit he was on with guitar, I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
Like he would just pluck a few open strings and tune the whole guitar. His chordal voicings were like, I was like, bro, I've never met anyone play like that. And I think at the time it was so impactful for sure. But yeah.
Right on.
The
man.
Resistance with Nathan.
This is why I like asking these questions because
Yeah.
it brings up like other little shit on the side.
Crazy, bro.
Okay, I'm gonna hit you with one more.
Okay.
What do you know now that you wish you knew when you started? I mean, I know that there's obviously an endless number of things.
Yeah.
But if you had to narrow it down to
I'm
one
trying
thing,
to think. I think honestly, not getting high or drunk before going on stage. Like just not getting high or drunk in general. Like I wish I knew how detrimental that could be to professional situations. Like a podcast, like going to the studio to record, like playing a really big show that you need a lot of focus on. Like I think when I was in my early 20s, I just wanted the thrill of being fucked up. And I wasn't like an extreme guy by any means. Like there are people who really go too hard. Like I could always play pretty well.
yeah,
For what it's worth, but yeah, like just smoking right before you go on smoking a bowl right before you go play a show
I think
is not a good idea.
I
Like,
think
that's where I'm at with it.
for me, it was never weed. I smoked a lot of weed when I was in high school and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I fell out of that. But all the places that I used to play just would give you as much like craft beer or whatever as you could drink. And I would take them up on it.
Yeah.
And I don't, like you said, I don't think there weren't many occasions where I got like shitty to where I just like
Yeah.
couldn't play.
Yeah.
There were times that I would do things where I maybe drank a little too much and would like go for things that I shouldn't have
Yeah.
gone for.
Yeah.
Um,
We're pretty reasonable.
yeah.
And that's to say,
I never got like fired
right?
over it.
And
you know,
I've gotten roofied one time on Broadway playing.
ugh.
And that was weird because I could drink 2 or 3 tequila shots and I would be like feeling it, but like I couldn't drum, Tyler. I was like falling asleep drumming, like nodding off.
Why would someone even do that?
Because there was no one there. It's COVID. Like no one. They're just
No, but like the motivation,
they just wanted to see us get fucked up.
dude.
That's trash, right? And we ended up in a literal ditch on the side of the highway in our car. Yup.
Damn.
That was kind of when I was like, I stopped drinking a lot during playing because you get wrapped up in Broadway, people buy you drinks. I think after that, I stopped saying, fuck it, you know?
Yeah.
I kind of was like, okay, well, maybe let's
keep control.
Let's keep control of this. So, yeah, man.
Well, that is good. That is good advice.
Yeah, just don't get fucked up when you have something important to do. Like, wait for when you're being creative. Like when you have a moment where you can like be in the studio and mess around, smoke some weed. If you're jamming with your friends, do your thing, man. Like if you guys are just, you know, even writing, you could maybe incorporate that. But like for the most part, don't do that shit before you have to do something important.
Right on.
That's the one thing I wish.
And this is all going to be in the show notes, but like tell the folks your Instagram, TikTok handles and all that.
It's just Maxxwellhouse with 2 X's, 1 word, like the coffee.
Right.
It's just Maxxwellhouse. 2
Maxxwellhouse
X's.
on TikTok, Instagram,
YouTube, it all.
Yeah, right on. And again, come catch Maxxwellhouse on the 15th of July at the Underdog and the 28th at the End.
Yes, sir.
And both of those venues are right here in Nashville, Tennessee. Brother, I love you so much.
Dude, love you, man. You're awesome, bro.
I'm
Thanks
so-
for having me, man.
Absolutely,
What an
man.
epic first episode.
Hell yeah, dude.
We talked for 2 hours.
2
man.
hours and yeah.
That's
Jesus
crazy.
Christ.
That's
well,
crazy.
look, thank y'all for listening. Again, this has been the Good, the Bad, and the Music podcast. And follow us on YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff. Later. That was so much fun, man.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks for having me, dude. Oh, wow. We fucking chatted, man. Thanks for letting me yap, bro.
I always let the music play out a little bit for the end of the YouTube video.
Yeah. Yeah. Classy.